Hello, it's Michael Watts here, and in this video I'm looking at quilted mahogany from the tree. It's the rarest and most valuable tonewood on the planet, but does it live up to the hype? Let's face it, everybody loves a good story, and while the story of the tree has been told many times with varying degrees of success, it's normally been by someone who has a vested interest in selling you a guitar. Now, if you're new to the subject of the tree, if this is the first you've ever heard of it, we are talking about a single, enormous quilted mahogany tree that was discovered for the first time in 1965 in the Chiquibul Jungle of Belize. The tree was huge, over 100 feet tall, with a diameter at the base of the trunk that was at least 10 feet, and common consensus puts it at about 500 years of age when it was harvested. That's right, it was cut down upon discovery, painstakingly so, with hand tools, in a process that must have taken weeks. However, when the tree finally succumbed to gravity, it fell backwards and was lost in a ravine where it would spend the next 10 years. In the 1970s, a sawmill owner by the name of Alan Mornay found the tree, and he notified Robert Novak, who was a specialist in tropical hardwoods, who happened to be in the area at the time. Novak went in there with heavy machinery and managed to pull this huge trunk out, whereupon it was quartered and sent downriver to a sawmill. It was upon cutting into the tree for the first time that this incredible quilted figure was revealed. The tree had a twisted back, and so there was every chance that something unusual was going on there, but essentially it's a mutant. Eventually, and perhaps inevitably, examples of this beautiful wood started to make their way into the workshops of guitar luthiers, with instrument makers such as Richard Hoover of the Santa Cruz Guitar Company, the archtop builder Tom Rebecki, Harvey Leach, and the late Lance McCullum being amongst the pioneers. I've been very fortunate, and I've played guitars made from the tree all over the world, from Berlin.
Why don't you tell us about this guitar that Michael is playing for us?
Well, that guitar is a modified Renat that I made about 3 months ago.
Now, you breezed past the mahogany back and sides as if it was no big deal, but oh my God, Michael, turn this over. This is the coolest mahogany I've ever seen.
This is an amazing piece of the tree mahogany.
All right, thank you, Leo. Michael, hit it.
To Texas, and even all the way out in Cape Town, South Africa.
Being so far away from the rest of the guitar community, we really had to kind of figure it out for ourselves and really kind of dig deep. And I think from that place, ultimately if you can tap into that, there's so much more that can come out. Something really, really unique and creative and original.
Actually get to translate these ideas into reality and see them manifesting in wood and brass and copper and mother of pearl, and that's an amazing thing.
Mostly while wearing the same jacket, I see now in retrospect. Nevertheless, in this video I'd like to look at the tree from the player's point of view. My own guitar from the tree is now over 10 years old. I've played it pretty much every day of those 10 years, and it has been a joy to own. It's a modified dreadnought that was handmade by Jason Costal while he was still an apprentice with Irvin Samoji in Oakland, California. It's a gorgeous instrument, and I made most of my debut album Vetiver with this guitar. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the tree is now the rarest and most valuable tonewood in existence at the moment, with sets commanding anything from $6,500 to $8,000 upwards at the time that I'm making this video. By the time you're watching it, it could be even more, and I've seen the cash hit the table. I've been really looking forward to talking about the tree in one of these videos. It's a big tree and it's a big subject. As such, I threw it open to my Instagram followers, and they sent through some fantastic questions that are really representative of the sort of conversations I've been having with guitar makers and buyers for the past decade or so. Here we go. Is the value of the tree simply its figure, or is there added resonance quality in its figure? Now, that's a great question. I can reassure you that you're not just paying for looks. There is a very characteristic sound of a tree guitar. It has a real throaty roar in the bass. There's no other way to describe it. And I will play this instrument for you in a little bit. There's also the fact that any luthier who has invested that amount of money into getting the raw timber in the first place is likely to put their best work into it, let's be honest. As such, the tree tends to be used for presentation grade instruments, really top-end customs, and it's often used as a canvas to demonstrate the very best of what a luthier is capable of. To cut a long story short, yes, it's more than just the looks. People compare it to Brazilian rosewood. Is this true? Absolutely not. In my mind, the only true comparison between the tree and Brazilian rosewood would be in the price. And if you are in the market for an instrument made from the tree, then you will be looking, doubtless, at any number of other luxury woods.
This kind of love is getting expensive. We know how to live, baby.
For want of a better word. So it would come as no surprise that Brazilian rosewood is on your radar, African blackwood, maybe an outlier such as Pernambuco as well. When it comes to sonics, the tree is good mahogany. Possibly the best mahogany I've certainly ever heard, but it remains mahogany. Slight detour here. Michael Millard of Froggy Bottom Guitars has gone on record as saying that in his experience it is not unusual for a guitar made of mahogany to start to, as it matures, to start to get characteristics that you might associate more with rosewood, and vice versa. So a mahogany guitar, as it ages, as it gets played in, you can start to expect more inherent reverb and a wider overtone series from it. Whereas a Brazilian rosewood guitar, you might start to experience a more fundamental quality to the note. Now, I bow down to Michael Millard's 50 years of experience at the front end of modern guitar lutherie. That may indeed be true. I've had this instrument for 10 years and I haven't noticed any development in its character that reminds me of the sort of sonic characteristics I would associate with rosewood. So yeah, absolutely not. Visually stunning. Does it sound distinctive from other mahogany varieties? Yes and no. It sounds like really great old growth mahogany, and that could come from anywhere in Central America or the Caribbean. It certainly doesn't sound like mahogany that has been farmed and is slightly spongy. This is a denser material. It comes from a tree that's had to fight to survive. It's had to burst through a jungle canopy in order to photosynthesize, and as such, there's a strength to it. Why is it so expensive? The law of supply and demand. It costs what the market will bear, I'm afraid. It's that simple. There's not a lot of it, and people want it. That could go for just about any other luxury good. Is plum pudding quilted mahogany the next best thing, or is the tree a beast all its own? The tree is not the only source of quilted mahogany, not by a long shot. However, it is the only source that has this amount of dramatic figure to it, the incredible quilting and tortoiseshell figure that you see. There is some beautiful quilted mahogany out there, but it's not quite the same. And I should point out that the tree is not the only celebrity mahogany tree out there either. There are quite a few of them now. The mahogany mama springs to mind, and although that's more of a flamed mahogany than a quilt. Okay, here's a good one. What would be a reason to not get the tree? False misconceptions. Simply if you don't like mahogany. And if you're expecting it to sound like something else, and if you want a guitar that has a fairly sort of demure look to it, because the tree, it's heavily figured, it can look imposing. It's not necessarily subtle. That may be a good thing. Does your guitar make your apartment smell of rich mahogany? Maybe through the clouds of Sex Panther.
Time to musk up.
Joking apart, the tree does smell gorgeous.
Stings the nostrils.
Here's an interesting reaction. Is it all just bullshit? No, it's not. The tree does tend to provoke similar reactions to Bill Finnegan's Klon Centaur transparent overdrive pedal. There are a lot of people who seem to take personal offence to the fact that they don't have one, and I have seen that with the tree as well. That said, I would love a Klon Centaur in the tree. So far I've kept everyone anonymous, but this next question comes from my dear friend Adam Miller. It's more of a Zen koan than a question, to be honest. How do you know when the tree is the tree and not just the tree or even a tree? I mean, that is a great question. It's got to be said. Get your wood from a reliable source and make sure that the luthier in question has got the wood from a reliable source. There are only a handful of reliable sources in the world, and a quick Google search will reveal most of them. Now, it's fair to say that last I checked, the tree doesn't come with any sort of stamp of authenticity like you might expect on moon-harvested alpine spruce. So really, it's just a question of putting trust in the human being that you're dealing with. Do you have a rough estimate of how much is left based on talking with luthiers? It's hard to say. There's still a supply of the raw timber, but there's also quite a bit of reclaimed wood that has come from, in particular, large tables and things like that. As to how many sets are left in the world, I honestly don't know. What do you think about alternative woods such as wenge and sapelli? Well, I'd never class wenge as an alternative to the tree, certainly as an alternative to Brazilian rosewood, where it can be a devastatingly effective wood. And I'm looking forward to playing a wenge guitar for you guys at some point. Sapelli, it's not quite the same idea. There is some beautiful Pamel sapelli out there that can look quite a lot like the tree. Obviously it's a tighter quilt. It doesn't sound the same, but it does look gorgeous. Sapelli is a wood I think that has been undervalued and maybe underestimated. I've played sapelli guitars that have absolutely blown my mind, but I ascribe that more to who made it than what it was made of. Sincere thanks to everybody who sent those questions through, and I hope you found my answers informative. I'd now like to address the slightly clickbaity title of this video. Apologies for that. Is it worth it? To my mind, there is one thing that gives the tree its value, and for that we need to go back almost to the start of this video, when I said this. However, when the tree finally succumbed to gravity, it fell backwards and was lost in a ravine where it would spend the next 10 years. For me, it's this fact that gives the tree such meaning. We nearly lost it. It could have just rotted away to nothing on the floor of the Belizean jungle and never been seen or heard. That's quite powerful. Owning a guitar made from the tree has meant a great deal to me over the past 10 years, but not more so than who made it or the music that was written and recorded using this guitar. It's been a privilege to have this instrument, and so for me it's definitely been worth it. It's a significant investment. However, I don't think there is a better investment in your time to be made than in a wonderful guitar. And if you are looking at the tree seriously and have the wherewithal to afford one of these beautiful instruments without going bankrupt, then whether or not it's worth it is It's entirely your call.
Go ahead, pimp.
But that's enough talking from me. You are probably very keen to hear this instrument and judge for yourselves. If you have any comments or questions, please do drop them in the section below. And if you found this video interesting, informative, or indeed entertaining, please do subscribe, drop me a like, and let me know your thoughts about the rarest and most expensive tonewood in the world. Until next time, stay tuned.